Is organization sexy? Unfortunately, it is not. But had I learned and adopted these tips a long time ago, it would have saved me so much frustration and hassle, and I know it can do the same for you. This is an important tips video to implement. The first tip is one I adopted from my friend Brad West, who has an excellent channel dedicated to Final Cut tips and tricks. And essentially it is a file structure for organizing your media for your different videos. Now that is kind of boring sounding, but I promise you, had I started this earlier in my career, I would still have libraries and media that I don't have access to. The nice thing about setting these folders up, which we're going to go over, is that anytime you need to access a specific piece of media, so whether it be like a sound effect, a clip, audio, some type of dialogue that you have, a picture, you know exactly where it is and in what folder. So we have 7 different folders that you will create inside one folder. I have this named ZZZ, so it stays at the very bottom of all the folder structure. And you can put this either on your hard drive, which is where I usually edit my videos, or you can create this folder on your external hard drive, if that's typically where you keep your media as well as your libraries. But once you create that folder, you will make 7 different folders. You can adjust these how you want, of course, but these were Brad's suggestions, and I quite like these. So you have your admin folder. So this is going to hold all of the notes for the project. If you have any model releases, storyboards, anything like that, go into this folder. Then you have your audio folder, which is where you will drag and keep all your dialogue and voiceover recordings, your music. And I don't put my sound effects in here just because I have my sound effects already in Final Cut. So for me, there's really no need to. And then you have your FCP folder, and this is what will house your template library, which we'll go over how to create in a second. You'll have a final exports folder, and this will house, obviously, your finished video. So once you finish and you export your project, you can export in like a ProRes, higher resolution, maybe one for social media. You put it in here. Then anytime you need to grab that high resolution file, you know exactly where it is. You have your footage, and what you name these events or these folders is going to depend on you. I name them my 2 cameras, so I have the A7S III and the FX3. You could, of course, just call it A camera, B camera. If you normally shoot with someone else, you could have it their name. And then I have screen recordings and exports. So any screen recordings go in this folder, and stock footage, so any B-roll that I have downloaded from the internet to spice up my videos a bit more, go in this folder. You have your graphics, as well as images. So any images go in this folder that you're going to put in your video. Now, just to clarify, this means that you're not going to copy your media directly to your library. So basically what I do before I start a project, or even while I'm creating the project, is I will drag the media into the specific folders that they should be going into, and then I go ahead and Command-I to import those pieces of media. Now, I also have the template library in the FCP folder. Essentially, this is a library that I'll show you how to create that has all the events already set up. So I have an audio event, a footage event, graphics, images, screen recordings, and stock footage. And so how this works is with this template, you don't use this ZZZ template library. All you do is duplicate when you're ready to start a new video. So that's just a simple right click and then hitting duplicate. You could rename it, let's just say example project. So pretend this is the new video you're creating. So you have your file structure and you have that template library already in that folder structure. So we'll just name it example project. We'll open this up. And because you created this example library before, you have all those events already set up for you every time. And if you're wondering how you can go about doing this, basically you'll go to File, you'll go to New Library, and I'll just put example and save it to your desktop for now. So then when you are creating this file structure that we're going over, you would just drag this to the FCP folder, and then you would hop in that template library and go about creating the new events by going to File, New Event, typing in audio, and so on and so forth. And this is something I really wish I had done starting off, because I have lost a lot of libraries and media because of lack of organization. It is one of my big regrets as a creator. This brings us to the next tip, which is a basic one, but one that you should for sure be using while editing. And that is using the favoriting feature in Final Cut. So if you don't know what that is, essentially by hitting F, you can favorite a clip or a section of your clip. So let's say I like this part of this clip right before he goes behind the tree. I will press I to set an in point. I will scroll through till right before he goes past the tree and hit my out point by pressing O, and then all you do is hit F for favorite. Let's pretend I like this entire clip, so I'll hit F for favorite. Now, who cares if there's this little green bar over top of your footage? Why does that really help? It really helps because when you're actually starting to edit your video, you can then just go to this drop-down menu and hit favorites, and you will have all of the clips that you think work best in your video. Essentially having a short list of your carefully curated footage that you like the best. And just the fact that your favorites folder will keep these small sections of clips that you like the most in one folder and not just have the entire clip really makes this a useful feature. Now, when should you go about using favorites? I would suggest before you even start your video project, go through all the media that you have in your events and go about finding the best bits and hitting F to favorite. And by the way, if you find a clip later on that you're like, oh, maybe not, maybe this clip is not as great as I thought, you can hit U to unfavorite that clip. So think F for favorite, that's obvious. U for unfavorite, also obvious. FCP organization is one thing, but there is one application that I've been paying for the past 10 years that has helped me to keep my computer clean and organized. So I reached out to them to sponsor today's video, and that is the amazing application CleanMyMac. This app is like having your own personal maid for your precious computer. Every time you boot your computer up and you're getting ready to edit, just use the scan feature to have that maid sweep through everything and clean out all the unneeded data, system junk, and caches that slow down your computer and affect how well it works. It also acts as your computer's bodyguard with features that scan for viruses and adware. You can instantly find large and old files that you likely don't need anymore. You can safely uninstall old plugins and applications that you don't use often. And by hitting the dock icon, you can test your Wi-Fi speed, see a real-time showing of how hard your computer is working, and it'll even warn you when your computer's being overworked or when your storage is low. It's crazy to think that I've used it for 10 years, but over those 10 years, it has become indispensable to me. I will put links to CleanMyMac in the description and in the comments. This brings us to our next two tips that I truly believe makes Final Cut the fastest and most efficient editing software right now. And the first tip out of two is keywording. Now, saying Final Cut is the fastest editing software is a huge statement, I realize, but until other editing softwares get range-based keywording, I just feel like Final Cut blows them out of the water. Not in every regard, but as far as organization, Final Cut is king. And here is why. So let's say that favoriting is not enough. Let's say I like this part of this shot from here to here, even though that's a little out of focus. But let's add some keywords to this. So you'll do that by pressing Command K, think Command Keyword. And essentially what keywords are sticky notes for your clips as a whole or sections of clips. So for this part of this clip, let's say we want to add a few sticky notes. So we will do people, let's do nature, and just for the example, let's type gimbal. Let's go to the next shot. Let's say we like this entire clip. Hit Command K. Obviously, there's no people in the shot. Obviously, there's no gimbal. So we want to add just nature, and we can do that by hitting the keyboard shortcut Control 2, or you can just go about pressing this or even typing in nature again. And while we're here, we'll also type in black and white. Maybe we add the nature keyword to this section of this clip that we like, as well as this one here. And let's click and drag and make a selection of this part of this shot and add a keyword to this. Let's pretend we like this bit. So Command K, obviously we are gonna add people, maybe we'll add nature. So you might be thinking, why is this useful? It seems like we would have to spend so much more time before we even start our video going through all our clips and adding those keywords. While it does take some time even before you start your video, you will be thanking yourself later on as you progress through your project, and you need to find a specific clip for the video. So for example, let's say after this clip here, I want to find a shot that has to do with nature, and specifically one that I like. So because we have created keywords already, you just go to that event that has your footage in it, hit the drop-down menu, and we have our keywords here, so we know we want nature, so we'll select that, and you can see we have our different options that we have selected of shots that have nature in them, and it's not the entire clip, it's just these specific sections that we like the most. So then we can then either press E to bring that to the end of our clip, or we could drag it to the end of our timeline. And you can get as granular as you want or as vague as you want. For example, in this video portrait, I really didn't get that granular. I basically went through my clips, favorited these sections that I like as a very general, oh, I kind of like this. And then I went through the footage again and added the keyword love to sections that I like a little bit more than favorites. So I even went through my different favorite sections and just found a more precise range that I like the best. And then lastly, I made the keyword best of basically my favorite footage of the project. And I found that usually I was using pretty much only the best keywords, and it made my life easier while I was editing. But on the other side of the spectrum, especially if you have a bigger project with tons of footage, it really helps to go through and add specific keywords. That way you can access those keywords easily while creating your video. So for example, this project, I have tons of footage, and I went about adding different like focal lengths, some wide shots, people exercising, some close-ups, gimbal movement, and I went through and kind of kept the same keywords throughout all of the different footage that I took, and then added a bit more. So I know that if I want to add a shot of food from this specific morning, I don't have to search through my library tirelessly. I just go to my keyword and I can find all the sections that I like the most. Now, some of you may be thinking, but Dylan, you have tons of events here. What if you want to find a clip of food across all of your events? Maybe you don't put all of your footage in one event. That is where the next organizational tip comes into play, and those are smart collections. You can always find smart collections right under the library name, I believe, and there are some basic template smart collections, but where smart collections are really useful is obviously when you create them yourself. So if you go to File, go to New, and add New Library Smart Collection, you'll see you have this new tab that popped up. You could rename it. I will just say, let's say food example. So we want to find a good shot of food across the entire library. So you just double click this gear icon and you have this window that's going to pop up. And think of this smart collection like a little room where you can choose who comes in the room or not. If you only want people with red shirts and who are 6 feet tall, you can make that selection here. If you want people who are short and kind of smell, you can also make that selection here. Hopefully that example wasn't too dumb. Basically, you can get very specific with what footage and what media you want in that smart collection. So we know that we want to get footage of food. So we're going to go down to keywords, and you have all of these keywords that I have made. So we want to uncheck all and just find food. Let's also pretend that maybe we want a wide shot that has food in it, getting even more granular. We will select that as well. And although we could stop here, let's pretend we only want to find clips or sections of clips that we've also favorited. So they have to be shots of food. It has to be a wide shot, and it has to be clips that we have favorited as well. So you go up to ratings, and then it's gonna drop down. So you have a new qualification. So it has to be a favorited clip as well. So now when you exit out of this, and usually you have to click off and then go back on. Now you have, although some of these are not wides, so clearly I didn't do a great job with keywording, but now you have all the footage that you have taken that have pictures of food in them and are wide shots, as well as clips that you favorited. So you can find the best bits of all your footage instantly. And there are a lot of parameters that you can select as well. If all of this keywording stuff is too much for you and you just want to use favorites, this tip should be perfect for you. I've talked about this before, but I'll do it again. I know not everyone sees my videos, mainly because some of you aren't subscribed. Shameless plug. So go to New Library Smart Collection, and we're going to type in unused favorites here. Obviously, I told you what this Smart Collection will have. So you'll hit the plus sign. You're going to go to ratings. So it's going to have to be media that's a favorite that you've gone through and favorited, and then you're going to hit the plus icon. You're going to click use media and switch to unused. Okay, click off. And usually, I don't know why, but you have to click off the Smart Collection and click back on. So now you have all of the clips that you have favorited and not used. So basically, instead of having to scrub through all your media and determine, oh, is that orange bar there, which shows that I've used the clip, that can be tiresome. Instead, this Smart Collection makes it so instantly all of your favorited clips that you have not used is in this Smart Collection. That way, you know what clips you like the most. You can add them to your project without having to scrub through all your media again. You can get very granular with what exactly you want added to your Smart Collection. So you can also do it by date. It just makes your life easier. So take the time before you start your video, run through, add favorites, add keywords, and then use Smart Collections as you're creating your project. Imagine if you had a button where if you pressed it, you could make your living room the most ideal place for whatever activity you were doing in your living room. So for example, you could click a button and make it the best room for reading. You could click a button and make it the best room for playing video games in. Click a button, make it the best room for board games, etc. This next tip is how you do that when it comes to editing. So let's set it up how you would normally like to color grade. So let's press Command 7 to bring up our scopes. Maybe you like a 2-up layout like me with vector scope on top and Luma waveform on the bottom. You like a very small timeline because you don't really need it. For color grading, maybe make this a little smaller so we can see the viewport bigger, and Command 6 to bring up our color adjustments. This is the layout you like. Instead of taking that 30 seconds to 45 seconds to set this up every time you color grade, just go to Window, go to Workspaces, and hit Save Workspace As, and then just name this Color Grading Workspace. So the next time that you are getting ready to color grade, but your windows are perhaps set up like this, all you have to do is go to Window, Workspaces, hit Color Grading Workspace, and you're all set up, ready to color grade. So create these workspaces for all the activities that you do while editing. So it could be sound design. You could even make a workspace for when you bring in your footage and you're going through and sorting it, organizing it, adding those favorites and keywords that we just went over. So let's pretend you like your screen nice and big, your viewport big when going through your media. This obviously has to be very large, and this is the layout you like. Once again, Window, Workspaces, Save Workspace As, and you could just call it, that almost looked like Joe Rogan, just do Organize Clips, boom. So then anytime you need, if right when you hop into your new project, you just go to Windows, and you click Organize Clips and you're set. That UI is ready for you to do that activity. So make your living room nice and neat and organized, set these up. It'll save you some time down the road. This last organizational tip has saved me hours and hours and hours of my life. I highly suggest you set this up. You're essentially creating a brand new library that will house all of the titles that you normally use, all the sound effects that you normally use, all of the plugins that you normally use. And if you're wondering why, just think about how much time and how much hassle it takes to go into folders, to find the exact title that you like, to go into your sound effects, to find the exact sound effect that you like. This takes out that hassle. So what I've done is just created basically a blank timeline, just a giant gap clip. You could do that by pressing Option W, and just extending this out a bunch. And that way the magnetic timeline doesn't suck all these in and make it impossible to see and select these different things. But as you can see, I've gone through and made everything my color theme. I went through and added sound effects to everything to make it so I don't have to do that when creating the video. And the sound effects thing specifically saves me hours. For example, something like this, which I do use often in my tutorials, I just select it, press Command C, I'll switch the project timeline to my main video that I'm working on, and then I would just hit Option V to paste above the timeline. So now I have my little pop-up with the sound effect. I don't have to go in and find the title. I don't have to adjust the title. I don't have to add sound effects. This will save you a boatload of time. And not only titles and stuff, but I also have transition sound effects. So I have compound clips of different sound effects that I use for specific transitions that I use. Also, my favorite sound effects are in this assets library. So I have my favorite whooshes, suckbacks, random sound effects, different clicks and latches and stuff like that I quite like. I have different backgrounds, different PNG images. I have pop-ups. I have my call to actions at the end. Wow, look how old this is. 18.7 thousand subs. We've come a long way thanks to you guys. But a tip that I wish I had done many years ago, perhaps when I had this 18.7 thousand subs, is create a music project. And what this has are all my favorite songs that I use frequently in my videos. I use Artlist. I love all the music they have. And so I just went through and found all of the songs that I think fit my tutorials and different YouTube videos and stuff. And what I did was I created a compound clip of them repeating a bunch, like up to 30 minutes. And basically I'd find the point, so it's a smooth transition. It's not like a harsh cut. So I tried to find the beat where this ends and this starts and match it up. That way, as a listener, you don't notice that the song is repeating again. But all of these are very, very long compounds. And it is these organizational tips and systems that when set in place will save you hours and hours of editing and really keep you from being annoyed at the editing process. This allows you to push all that annoying stuff out the way so you can focus on the creative aspect of editing. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And I will see you in the next video.